Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Multiverse 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto trained by Kurenai after Kakashi refused to train him part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. A 14-year-old Naruto Uzumaki stood in front of his sensei, Hitaki Kakashi in the middle of the hall at the hospital and said, Kakashi-sensei, I have a huge favor to ask you. Kakashi, who was reading his book, said, Stop right there. I know what you going to ask already, Naruto, and I'm sorry to say that I can't train you. Naruto eyes widened and he said, What? But. Kakashi said, I have other matters to attend to, but I have been searching for someone who can to train you who would do a better job than I could. Naruto frowned and said, But you're my sensei, Kakashi-sensei. Who could train me better than you? A voice from behind Naruto said, Well, I don't know if I could do it better than Kakashi could teach you, but I wouldn't mind training you. Both Naruto and Kakashi looked at where the voice came from and Naruto saw Kurenai Yuhi standing there, and a few steps behind her was Ebisu, who had also stopped walking in the direction Kakashi and Naruto were after hearing Kurenai say that, and Ebisu said, Excuse me for interrupting you, Yuhi-san, but I have already volunteered to teach Uzumaki-san. Kakashi said, Don't you already have a student in these exams, Kurenai? Wouldn't it be a different of interest for you? Kurenai bit her lip and looked around and motioned with her head toward the room next to where she was standing, and Kakashi said, Very well. Wait here, Naruto. Kurenai shook her head and said, No, Kakashi, he has a right to know why I am wanting to train his, since it is his training. I don't mind him hearing why I want to train him, but I just don't want it to be common knowledge until after the exams. Kakashi frowned behind his mask and Naruto said, She's right, sensei, it is my training and she is way better than closet pervert there. Kurenai asked, Closet pervert? Ebisu waved his hand and said, It's nothing, Yuhi-san. Kakashi said, Well, if you insist then let's hear why you want to train Naruto and in what, as he motioned toward the room. Once everyone was in the room with the door closed, all eyes turned to Kurenai, who took a deep breath and said, First, the reason I am not training Shino is his father has decided to train him in his clan jutsu for the exams. Kiba is also going to be training with his mother and sister during this month as well, since Hinata won't be able to train for the next 6 weeks. Now that leaves me free until after the exams, but that doesn't explain why I want to train Naruto. Kurenai took a moment to gather her thoughts and said, The reason I wish to train Naruto is I fear for the life of my student Hinata. Naruto asked, Hinata, is she going to be okay? Is it because of that jerk Neji? And Kurenai said, It's not Neji, at least not directly. You see, Neji is a member of the branch family of the Hyuga clan and Hinata is the main branch. I have reason to suspect that since Hinata is not what the main branch wishes she was for the heiress of the Hyuga clan, that they will use her defeat to Neji as an excuse to put her in the branch house and will put the cage bird seal on her, which at her age could kill her. They can't touch her until after the exams though, because she is under medical care right now due to the damage to her heart from Neji attack. That is the first reason I wish to train Naruto. Naruto asked, What's the cage bird seal? Kurenai said, It's basically a slavery seal. It's supposed to protect the Hyuga clan from having their bloodline stolen, but the main house uses it to control the branch house. They make a single hand sign and cause a person who has the seal to feel extreme pain or even die from it. Naruto frowned and asked, How does you training me help Hinata? Kurenai said, I can train you to defeat Neji. I know most of the strengths and weaknesses of the Hyuga clan bloodline, and if you defeat Neji after my training then I can go to Hinata father and tell him that it is his own rules about not allowing Hinata to learn anything outside of the Hyuga clan jutsu that lead to her defeat to Neji, while Neji's training in things outside of the Hyuga clan jutsu is what lead to his victory over Hinata. By you defeating him under my training then that gives me grounds to help protect Hinata from being put in the branch house, as well as get me permission to teach Hinata things that the Hyuga clan forbid her from being taught because of their narrow-minded beliefs. Kakashi said, Not that I don't feel sympathy for your student's situation, but exactly what is it that you could teach Naruto? Kurenai looked at Kakashi and said, Naruto's only opponent won't be just Neji. Everyone knows about his rivalry with his own teammate Sasuke. I also know how to fight a Sharingan user, not as good as some like yourself or Guy, but I do know enough to give him a chance of fighting against Sasuke and his Sharingan. I know of Ebisu here, He is great at teaching the basics, which is why he is allowed to train Konohamaru, but the basics isn't going to give him a chance to defeat Neji, and if he can't defeat Neji then he won't ever even get a chance to fight Sasuke. My request to train Naruto is selfish, but I know I can give him the skills he needs to defeat Neji and a chance at Sasuke. Kakashi said, well, Naruto said, do it. Causing everyone to look at him. Kakashi said, what are you doing, Naruto? You need to think about this carefully. Naruto said, I am. You remember Haku and Zabuza, right, Kakashi sensei? What you don't know is I met Haku once before that day on the bridge. He taught me a very important lesson that day. True strength comes from protecting that which is precious to you. I can see it in Kurenai sensei eyes that Hinata is precious to her. She's willing to do anything she can to protect her. And I may be a bit selfish as well, but what Neji did to Hinata was wrong. I don't know what it's like to have a family. But I don't believe what Neji did to Hinata is what family is supposed to do to each other. I want to defeat him more than I want to beat Sasuke. I doubt that I'll make Chunin, but I don't think I'm ready to be Chunin. A Chunin is supposed to be able to lead others. How can you lead when you are looking at the back of others? That snake guy in the forest. I wanted to make him pay for hurting Sasuke and Sakura. I killed 2 giant snake and used everything I had to fight him. He was able to beat me while holding me in the air with his tongue and a single punch to the stomach. I was knocked out for so long that when I woke up Sakura hair had been cut. Team 10 was standing there along with Sasuke and Sakura, and Bushy Brows was on the ground and he looked knocked out while his teammates were in the trees around us. I don't know what happened while I was out, and I know I'm not the smartest but even I know the only reason I am alive right now is because the others saved me. I owe Hinata the same thing. What kind of Hokage would I be if I wasn't willing to protect the people of Kohoa, no matter if they are my teammates or some weird girl who always passes out when she talks to me. I'll train under you, Kurenai sensei, and I promise that I will defeat Neji to protect your precious person, and I don't go back on my word. That's my ninja way. Kurenai smiled and quickly moved forward, pulling Naruto into a hug with his face right between her as she said, thank you, Naruto. You don't know how much this means to me, thank you. As she hugged him tightly while moving him back and forward. A thud caught her attention as she noticed Ebisu was blown back with a nosebleed and a perverted smile on his face while Kakashi raised his book a little higher and closer to his nose and thought, lucky bastard, and said, well, in that case, I am sorry for bothering you, Ebisu, and good luck, Naruto, and I hope you are happy with your decision. See ya. As he shushined away. Kurenai blinked a moment and then looked at Naruto, who was frozen in place in the valley between her, let go of Naruto and stepped back and said, I'm sorry about that, Naruto. Naruto rubbed his head sheepishly with a blush on his face and said, no problem, Kurenai sensei. Kurenai smiled gently and said, alright, Naruto. Do you have anything else you need to do before begin training? Naruto shook his head no, and Kurenai said, then sit down and tell me what skills you have so I know what you need trained on and what you don't. Naruto said, that makes sense. I know the Kujbunshin no Jutsu, Henge, replacement, cloak of invisibility, my no Jutsu, harem jutsu. I also know the tree climbing exercise Kakashi sensei taught us in Wave Country. Kurenai, who had a gentle smile on her face as Naruto started to speak, slowly pursed her lips and said, is that it? Naruto rubbed the back of his head and said, yeah, with a sheepish grin. Kurenai said, did Kakashi teach you anything else or try to teach you anything else? Naruto said, just teamwork. With a shrug. Kurenai frowned and said, I see, well, we got our work cut out for us and only a month to get ready. Do you know where training ground 32 is? Naruto blinked a moment and said, yeah, that's the one by the waterfall that flows into the Kuroku Lake. We had to get trash out of that stream. Why? Kurenai said, good, you know where I want you to go already. Meet me at the bottom of that waterfall in 1 hour and bring all your camping supplies and ninja equipment as well as all your cloths as well. Naruto frowned and said, why? Kurenai said, because to keep your training a secret you're not going to leave that area until your training is complete. I'm going to put you through hell during your training and force you past your breaking point in order for you to come out stronger than ever. Now go, you only got 56 minutes left to get ready. Naruto's eyes widened and he quickly left the room, and Kurenai growled a moment before she looked at the tag she pulled off of Naruto's jacket and shushined away. After going to his apartment and grabbing all his ninja equipment and his cloths, Naruto had shoved them in his backpack and heading toward Ikiruka ramen stand to get some ramen. Naruto made it to the location Kurenai had told him to meet her and looked around and said, I guess I beat her here. A voice from behind him said, you guess wrong. Startling Naruto as he jumped to his feet and turned and saw a shimmer in the air and saw Kurenai standing there with her arms crossed and said, you're late. Naruto was wide-eyed and said, that was cool, are you going to teach me that? Kurenai said, I don't know yet. What good is me teaching you something if you don't know how to defend against it? You must know yourself before you can know your enemy. Naruto looked confused and Kurenai said, is that all your cloths and ninja supplies? Naruto nods and Kurenai said, let me see. As she held her hand out. Naruto hands her his bag and Kurenai opened it and looked at Naruto's supplies, and she grabbed his cloths and put them in one pile and then his weapons in another pile, with Naruto blushing when Kurenai giggled slightly as she pulled out his frog boxers, which she put in a separate pile. Kurenai said, first lesson, stealth, as she flashed through a couple of hand signs and breathed a fireball into Naruto's cloths minus his boxers, causing Naruto's eyes to widen and he screamed, no, my cloths. How could you? As tears started to fall from his eyes. Kurenai pulled out a scroll and said, here is your new cloths. Naruto looked at the scroll and said, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? Wrap it around me like bandages like you. Kurenai got defensive and said, my cloths are not bandages, and don't you know anything about sealing? Naruto frowned and Kurenai sighed and said, look, this isn't going to do either of us any good if we fight, so listen, inside this scroll is a standard storage seal. I got you some new cloths that will not only make you look more professional but also some other supplies that will help. Just take this behind a tree and channel chakra into the seal and out will pop out your new supplies. Now go, you're wasting both our time. Naruto took the scroll and said, no peeking lady. As he walked behind a tree and Kurenai blushed and thought, that was so wrong. A few minutes later Naruto came back wearing a pair of black pants that had built-in weapon pouches, a fishnet shirt with a gray shirt over it. Kurenai said, good, I see I was right about your old cloths being too big for you. Now remember I told you that you must know yourself before you know your enemy, right? Naruto nods and Kurenai said, when you fought Kiba I saw you use your Kage Bunshin. What do you know about the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu? Naruto blinked and said, the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu is a jutsu that is in the Forbidden Scroll. It makes solid clones that can only take one hit before dispelling. Kurenai said, is that it? Naruto nods and Kurenai thought, lazy bastard. And said, the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu divides the chakra of the user evenly between himself and each clone you make. That is part of the reason it is in the Forbidden Scroll. If a person uses it too much or stupidly, it could cost them to die of chakra exhaustion, causing Naruto to pale slightly and said, but I use it all the time with no problem. Kurenai said, that is mostly because of that. Now I said the chakra problem was only part of the reason it was a kinjutsu. The other reason is because whatever a Kage Bunshin learns is transferred back to you and any other Kage Bunshin you created when dispelled. That makes it a great jutsu for scouting. Naruto's eyes widened and said, really, but. Kurenai held up her hand and said, let me finish. Now, I can tell you didn't know this before, and that means that all this time you could have been making great strides in becoming a better ninja has been wasted because you didn't know yourself. Naruto frowned as he heard that and thought, did I really just waste all this time so far? Why didn't anyone tell me? Kurenai, seeing the look on Naruto's face, said, assumption is the biggest mistake people can make, Naruto. I bet nobody told you about that before because they figured you'd read about it when you took the Forbidden Scroll. Naruto looked down and Kurenai said, but we can work on correcting that mistake now, so watch. As she walked out onto the water near the waterfall and said, this is also a chakra control exercise like the tree climbing exercise. Too much chakra and you will blow off, not enough and you will sink. What I want you to do is use what you think is half your chakra to make as many Kage Bunshins as you can and have them begin to practice this exercise. Stop. Causing Naruto to stop before he could finish putting his hands together. Kurenai said, wait until I finish speaking before you make them. Now your Kage Bunshin will know what you know, so when you make them already have your plan in your head. What I want them to do is form a line before trying this exercise. I want them to start with trying only one foot first while keeping one on dry land. Once they can stand on the foot on the water without sinking, then the first clone to actually do it is to dispel, so the other clones will learn what he knew as well as you. Then they are to try with both feet. Again, when the first clone to stand on both feet without falling can do it, he is to dispel. After that, then I want them to practice walking across this stream. The first clone to walk across the stream and back again 10 times without falling is to dispel. After that, I want the Kage Bunshins to grab a leaf and try to do this. As she put a leaf on her left hand and start to channel chakra, causing the leaf to float. Naruto was wide-eyed and Kurenai said, this is the leaf floating exercise. Too much chakra and the leaf will blow off, not enough and it won't move. When a clone can get it to float above your hand for 10 seconds, he is to dispel. Then the clones are to try and keep it there for 1 minute. After they can keep it there for a minute, that one is to dispel, and then the clones are to try the other hand, same rules for 10 seconds and then 1 minute. After that, both hands, 10 seconds, then a minute. After that, the clones are to try tree climbing with one leaf in one hand up and down the tree 10 times while floating the leaf. Then the other hand 10 times before floating the leaf, then both hands for 10 times. After that, same thing on water with one leaf on one hand for 10 times across and back, and then one leaf on the other hand 10 times across and back. After that, then I want any clones that are remaining to try to run up this waterfall using chakra one at a time until they're all gone. I don't expect you to get this done today, but I do expect you to have it done before the end of the week. Naruto nods and Kurenai said, but the real you will be doing something else. Naruto said, what will I be doing, Kurenai-sensei? Kurenai walked behind a tree and came back out with a plastic bag and said, in this bag is some rubber balls. I got them to help train Akamaru, but because of fear of him choking on them, Kiba would not let me use them. I am going to use them on you as target practice. I am going to throw these at you, but you are not allowed to move. Naruto's eyes widened and he started to say something when Kurenai said, no arguing. You are not allowed to move because you are going to be using the replacement jutsu to move yourself. I have 100 balls and will be throwing them at my full strength. If one hits you, then you will first have to collect each of the balls and then do one sit-up and one push-up for however many balls are still in the bag before starting all over again with dodging. We will do this until you can dodge the entire bag of balls. Now create your Kage Bunshins, it's time to train. Naruto nods and put his hands together and said, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Kurenai's eyes widened as nearly 200 Kage Bunshin appeared and thought, holy shit, how much chakra does he have? Shaking herself out of her though, Kurenai saw the clones were starting to practice and she smirked before throwing a ball at Naruto, nailing him in the nods, and Kurenai said, 99 sit-ups and push-ups, Naruto. Naruto grumbled as he rubbed his nose and began to do as told. Several hours later, Naruto was groaning on the ground and Kurenai said, that's good for now, Naruto. I'm surprised your clones are still going. Now I want you to gather firewood and I'll be back in an hour with food. Keep your clones going until they are all gone or out of chakra. You just rest after getting the wood though. See ya in an hour. By the way, good job so far. Naruto groaned and said, why is it always my nose? As he stood up slowly. Kurenai giggled and walked over and said, because your body is sore enough already from first your battle with Kiba this morning and using so much chakra, but here, this will make it feel better. I'm proud of you. As she kissed his forehead, causing Naruto to go wide-eyed and blush. Kurenai giggled seeing this and said, now go. If you got time to blush, you got time to train. As she shushined away. Naruto stood standing there for several minutes until the memory of one of his clones returned to him and he shook his head and began to gather firewood. When Kurenai returned, she saw Naruto had started a fire already and was sitting by it, and she saw the Kage Bunshin had dropped drastically in numbers since she had left and thought, they must be running out of chakra finally. Naruto, who was looking at the fire, asked in a soft voice, why did you kiss me? Kurenai, who was in thought judging Naruto clones, blinked and said, what was that? I didn't catch it. Naruto, still looking into the fire, asked, "Why did you kiss me?" Kurenai said, "Just a friendly gesture as thanks and gratitude for all the hard work you have been doing today and for helping me to protect my student." Naruto said, "Oh," softly. Kurenai turned her head slightly and said, "Is something wrong, Naruto?" Naruto said, "I guess not. I just never been kissed before by someone." Kurenai said, "That's not true. You kissed Sasuke, remember?" Naruto got a mortified look on his face and said, "Thanks, I thought I had repressed that memory. Beside, that was an accident, the kid behind me caused it by knocking me into Sasuke, so it doesn't count." Kurenai said, "Well, don't worry about it. That kiss I gave you was just a simple gesture of gratitude, nothing more." Naruto said, "Sensei, what is this training we are doing for? I mean, what good is it going to do me against Neji?" Kurenai unsealed 2 takeout plates from a scroll and said, "I guess that's a fair question. Think back to Neji and Hinata's fight, tell me what you saw, not what was said but what you saw each of them was able to do. I'll explain what this will do after you answer that question." Naruto looked in thought and said, "Well, Neji and Hinata both got those weird veins around their eyes, they were doing a lot of dodging and I think they were using chakra in their hands." Kurenai said, "We will need to work on your observation skills sometime. But you are somewhat right if only barely. Those veins around their eyes showed that they were sending chakra to their eyes to activate their bloodline. When they activate their bloodline they can see nearly everything around them and can see longer distances and can also see through things including the human body, so they can see the chakra inside a person body. Hyugas are very flexible, which is why both were doing so much dodging, because they could attack their targets from several different angles. They were also using chakra in their hands to seal off each other's chakra by blocking their enemy's chakra flow with their own chakra." Naruto said, "But what does that have to do with anything?" Kurenai said, "Neji is very fast and flexible. He also has excellent control over his bloodline, and being on an assault team under Guy, I know his taijutsu is higher than your average Hyuga. I doubt he used his full strength in that battle and will most likely have several tricks up his sleeves for the finals. Neji also has experience on his side, having been a ninja longer than you or Hinata. Do you agree with me?" Naruto thought hard for a minute and said, "Yeah, I guess so." Kurenai said, "If you were to fight Neji right now, what would you do? Don't answer, let me try and guess. You would use your Kuchibunshin and try to overpower him with numbers, right?" Naruto frowned and Kurenai said, "That won't work. Watch, hey, you Kuchibunshins, come here a minute." Naruto watched as all his Kuchibunshin that were left, which was only about 30, came over, and Kurenai said, "Alright, I want you to sit on the ground in a circle around me." "Good, now you see, I have about a 4 feet circle area I can still move. Your Kuchibunshin couldn't all sit around me in one circle, so they had to form another one behind the first one. Your clones can only come so close to me without getting in each other's way, giving your enemy a chance to take them out either by attacking them and with one punch destroy a clone, or by replacing himself with a log covered in exploding tags which would kill all these clones. Do you see what I am getting at?" Naruto looked in thought and said, "Neji would be able to use his speed, flexibility, and experience against my clones to take them out while they were all tied up trying to get to him." Kurenai said, "Exactly." Naruto got a worried look on his face and asked, "Then how am I going to be able to defeat him to save Hinata?" Kurenai said, "By increasing your chakra control you will be able to use your chakra better for more jutsu, and by mastering your jutsu like the replacement, you and your clones won't be getting hit as much, so you won't have to replace them as much. That is what I am teaching you right today. Now the real you eat up and all the Kuchibunshin go back doing what you were doing before. After you eat Naruto, I'm going to tell you about some of the battle situations I have found myself in, and I want you to tell me what you would have done in those situations, alright?" Naruto said, "Hi sensei." As he took the plate from her and began to eat while the Kuchibunshin went back to training. After Naruto finished eating he said, "Sensei, I think there is something wrong with my chakra." Kurenai asked, "What do you mean?" Naruto said, "Well, one of my Kuchibunshin decided to get ahead of the others and tried to do the tree climbing with the leaf floating while the others are trying to get water walking with both leaves, and well, it was like I never even done the tree climbing exercise before, even though I learned to get up the tree in wave." Kurenai frowned and looked in thought and said, Naruto, how often do you practice the tree climbing exercise since you first learned it? Naruto frowned and said, none. Why? Kurenai said, Naruto, for normal ninja, chakra control exercises should be done a couple of times a week. You though don't fall in that category. Naruto bit his lip and asked, do you hate me for Kyuubi? As he looked away nervously. Kurenai smiled gently and said, no Naruto. I saw the Kyuubi when it attacked and I can tell the difference between you and him. You are nothing like the fox. Naruto smiled a small smile and said, thanks Kurenai-sensei. Kurenai said, your control could have just slipped from not practicing it enough to compensate for your reserves growing. You really should have at least 50 kg Bunshin every day practice some form of chakra control for you to keep it in good shape. Did you finish the water walking exercise I told you clones to do? Naruto thought a moment and screamed, hey, sensei wanted us to do them in a CERTIAN order, no cheating, get back to work you bastards. The next morning Naruto woke up to a bucket of water being poured on his head causing him to sputter and scream, what the hell sensei? Kurenai said, I have tried to wake you up for the last 10 minutes. Breakfast is ready. Naruto grumbled quietly to himself and grabbed the plate that Kurenai was offering and began to eat and said with his mouth full, what are we doing today? Kurenai frowned and said, first, don't talk with your mouth full, it's disgusting. Second, tell me what your clones got done yesterday. Naruto thought a moment and made sure his mouth was empty and said, they got the regular water walking down and got the leaf floating exercise down with both hands, but they tried to do the leaf floating with water walking or tree climbing and they didn't get more than a couple of feet before all dispelled or ran out of chakra. Kurenai said, then same as yesterday, create your cage Bunshins and have them practice on chakra control while you practice dodging my throws, but today instead of me standing in one spot throwing them at you I will be attacking from different locations. We will stop at noon and I'll go get lunch while your clones continue to work and you will sit here and rest until I return. Naruto bit his lip and said, last night you didn't exactly tell me what exactly is this training going to do. Kurenai sighed and said, Naruto, I'm not going to lie to you so I'll just be blunt. There is no way between now and the finals you can get fast enough to get inside of Neji guard to attack him unless you're willing to take a lot of damage that could cost you the match. There is also no way you can get enough flexibility to outmove him either in less than a month. What I am hoping to do is to take an experimental jutsu I created for when I spar with Hinata to keep from having my chakra shut off and have you take it to the next level. A lot of the work will have to be done by you to figure out the best way to use it for you. I could tell you everything I know about the Hyuga, Their fighting style, and Their bloodline and then let you figure out your own way. Naruto frowned and said, so you don't have some kick jutsu that will instantly let me win against Neji? Kurenai said, no. All I have is my own experience and that jutsu I mentioned that lets me reduce the damage I take from Hinata when I spar with her. If you want to cancel our agreement and find you someone better I'll understand. Naruto said, why would I do that? You have taught me more in a few hours than Kakashi-sensei has in 6 months. It would be cool if you had a one-hit code jutsu that would let me instantly win, but I learned a lot of things on that mission to Wave. Things are not what you always believe they are. An enemy today could be an ally tomorrow. Teamwork can overpower a stronger enemy. The most dangerous weapon a ninja has is Their mind. Emos come in all sizes, and Senbon needles hurt like a bitch. Kurenai laughed at the last one and said, sounds like that mission was very interesting. Naruto smiled softly and said, yeah. Hey, sensei. I got a question. Kurenai said, I hope I can answer it for you. What is it? Naruto said, well, Iruka-sensei was always yelling at me about my no jutsu. Kurenai pursed her lips and said, I can understand why. That henge is degrading to women. Naruto frowned and said, but it's not a henge. Kurenai blinked and said, what do you mean? Naruto said, well. I got an idea in the middle of battle with Zabuza. He had Kakashi-sensei trapped in this water prison jutsu and he was standing on top of a lake and had some water clones attacking us while he held the jutsu. I got the idea that if I could get close to him then I could free Kakashi-sensei, but since I couldn't walk, On water like he could. I got the idea of flying over the water, so I created a couple of cage bunshin to help distract everyone, and I used my no jutsu, but instead of imagining myself as a woman I imagined myself as a demon windmill shuriken and had my cage bunshin toss me to Sasuke, who actually threw me at Zabuza, who jumped over me, and once I passed him I released the jutsu and threw a kunai at his back, forcing him to defend himself and freed Kakashi sensei. A henge isn't real. So how is it that Sasuke was able to throw me as a shuriken? Kurenai blinked and said, that, show me, turn yourself into a shuriken like you claim you did. Naruto put his hands together and was covered in smoke, and when it cleared, a demon windmill shuriken floated in the air a moment before falling to the ground with a thud. Kurenai's eyes widened and she bit her lip and put her hands together and said, release, before she walked over and picked up the shuriken. Tapping it a moment, she ran her finger along the edge and winced a moment as she cut her finger. Naruto released the jutsu and said, are you alright, sensei? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. In a worried tone. Kurenai said, that was amazing, Naruto. You said that is basically your no jutsu. Naruto nods and Kurenai said, I wonder if it could be a bloodline. Naruto said, no, I taught it to Konohamaru to help him knock out that closet pervert Ebisu. Kurenai frowned and said, well, don't teach it to anyone else. That jutsu with the GHT, hey Naruto. I just got a crazy idea. Create your cage bunshin and have them start training in chakra control, and then use that jutsu to change into someone you met not from Konoha and not a ninja. You and I are going to see Hinata. Naruto said, why can't I go like I am? Kurenai said, 3 reasons. The first is your training is supposed to be secret. The second reason is to see how long you can hold that jutsu, and the final reason is to see if anyone can tell it's not real or figure out how to dispel it as we walk through town. Naruto asked, but why do I need to see Hinata? I mean, shouldn't I be training also? Kurenai said, well, Hinata might appreciate seeing you come and wish her a quick recovery, plus I want Hinata to try and use her bloodline to test my theory. Naruto shrugs and put his hands together, and when it cleared there stood Tazuna, who said, call me Tazuna. I'm the bridge builder who was the client for Team 7 to wave. Kurenai nods and both began to head to town. 20 minutes later, as they approached the hospital, Sakura came out of the hospital looking down, but when she saw Kurenai and Tazuna she said, hello Tazuna, what are you doing here? I thought you would be in wave with Tsunami and Inari. Tazuna said, Tsunami been jumping all over me about drinking so much at my age, and I promised her that I would come get a checkup from a doctor here in Konoha while I came to thank the Hokage for the great work that you and your team did protecting me and saving my country. So where is the other 2, Sakura? Sakura said, I don't know, the nurse told me that Kakashi sensei checked Sasuke out and I haven't seen Naruto yet. Tazuna said, well, if you see them tell them I said hello. This lovely lady here was kind enough to show me around so I can return home quicker. Shall we go, Kurenai-san? Kurenai, who was watching the exchange, said, yes, let's go, Tazuna-san. It was good seeing you again, Sakura. Sakura said, you also, Kurenai-sensei. Hey, by the way, how is Hinata doing? Kurenai said, she was resting when I checked on her last night. I was going to check on her while Tazuna took care of his business. Well, I'm sorry to chat and run, but I must be going. Good day, Sakura. Sakura said, same to you, sensei. As she turned and left. Once she was gone, Kurenai said, I must say you could make a very good infiltration expert, Naruto. What's wrong? As she saw Tazuna had a scowl on his face. Tazuna said, Kakashi sensei, he abandoned me so he could train Sasuke privately. Kurenai bit her lip and said, that is only partially true. I'm not allowed to say, it's an S-rank secret, but I can tell you that Kakashi doesn't like what he had to do, but orders are orders. Tazuna pursed his lips and said, I see. It doesn't seem right though. Kurenai said, I know, but it had to be done considering the actual situation I'm not allowed to speak about. Anyways, we're here. As she knocked before slowly opening the door and saw Hinata asleep and blinked as there was another person in the room and said, Hiyashi-sama, I'm not disturbing, am I? Hiyashi Hyuga looked up at Kurenai and said, no. I was just leaving. As he stood up and began to leave. As he got to the door he saw Tazuna and said, who are you and what are you doing here? As he activated his bloodline. Tazuna said, I'm Tazuna, I'm just being shown around to the hospital to get a checkup so my daughter will get off my back about drinking, and this lady here was kind enough to show me here and said she would show me where to go to get my test as soon as she checked on her student who was here. I don't mean to intrude on anyone's privacy. I'll just be on my way. Thank you again for your help, miss. I'll just ask a nurse or someone to show me where to go to get a checkup. Goodbye. As he turned and started to leave, Hiyashi said, "Stop right there, Uzumaki." Tazuna froze in place while Kurenai was cursing in her head, and Hiyashi turned to Kurenai and said, "What is the meaning of this, deception Yuahi?" Kurenai started to say something when Tazuna said, "Can we speak somewhere more private, sir, and I can explain?" Hiyashi nods and motioned toward the room next to Hinata and Tazuna, and Kurenai walked in and Tazuna was covered in smoke, revealing the real Naruto, who said, "Who are you exactly?" Kurenai said, "This is Hiyashi Hyuga-sama Naruto. He's Hinata's father and the head of the Hyuga clan." Naruto face scrunched up as he looked at Hiyashi and said, "I see. I don't like you." Kurenai eyes widened and hissed, "Naruto, show Hiyashi-sama some respect." Naruto looked at her confused and said, "Why?" Kurenai said, "Because he's." Naruto said, "I know, the head of the Hyuga clan, Hinata's father, and he's also one of the council members. I recognize him from one of the times I was brought into the council chambers after one of my pranks, but I don't see why he should be respected." Hiyashi said, "I should be respected because." Naruto said, "I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to her." Interrupting Hiyashi. Kurenai was shocked hearing Naruto say what he was saying to Hiyashi face, and Hiyashi said, "If you do not stop this insolence, I will." Naruto said, "What? Put the cage bird seal on me like you do the branch house. Call me a failure, a weakling, attack me. Take a number. What makes you different than the people in the branch house? I heard the cage bird seal is supposed to be used to protect your clan's bloodline, then why doesn't everyone in your clan have it? Why only the branch house? Why have the seal design where it can be used to torture or kill the person who has it? What makes them different than you?" Hiyashi said, "I don't have to answer to you." Naruto said, "And I don't have to answer to you. You know I'm right. There is no difference between you and the branch house. You just want to cause pain and suffering while forcing someone to suck up to you and kiss you. To think, you're probably going to put it on your own daughter. Funny. Konoha hates Itachi Uchiha for killing his own family, but you're doing the same thing, bastard." Kurenai said, "That's enough, Naruto. Forgive him, Hyuga-sama, he's." Hiyashi said, "Right." Causing Kurenai eyes to widen and Naruto to blink. Hiyashi sighed and said, "I hate how things are in my clan, but there is nothing I can do." Naruto said, "I thought you were the clan head. If you don't like it, change it." As if it was the simplest thing in the world. Hiyashi said, "I am the clan head, but I am also only one man against my clan elders, and I have to do what is best for my clan." Naruto frowned and started to walk toward the door, but when his hand reached the handle and said, "If you can't change your entire clan by yourself, then change things for one person. That one person could then help you shoulder some of the load to help another. All it takes is teamwork and the desire to protect that which is precious to you. If you really care about your daughter and your family, then prove it." Kurenai sensei, since he saw through my jutsu, I should get back to training. Thank you for observing my testing of my new jutsu. Tell Hinata I said hi. As he walked out and closed the door. Hiyashi looked at the now closed door and after a few minutes looked at Kurenai and asked, what was his purpose here earlier? What were you trying to do? Kurenai said, I wanted to check on Hinata to see how she was doing. As for what he looked like, I'll tell you if you can answer how you knew it was him first. Hiyashi said, he has a unique chakra network that is way different than everyone else's that works around that. I have seen it enough over the years to be able to recognize it, though that was the only way I could tell he wasn't him, and if it wasn't for my Byakugan then I wouldn't have even known. Kurenai nods and looked in thought and said, it was a test to find out the true extent of a jutsu that he created that we all seem to have misjudged, you know his famous no jutsu. Hiyashi frowned and said, I am aware of that henge, why? Kurenai said, it appears that it is not just a henge but an actual shapeshift. Hiyashi eyes widened slightly and said, really, are you sure? Kurenai said, so far all the tests I've suggested seem to suggest that, though I don't know what all you can do to test something like this. Hiyashi said, I see, are you training him for the finals? Kurenai looked at Hiyashi and said, "What could I teach him that would give him the advantage against your nephew? The only thing I've taught him is water walking to help him with his chakra control since Kakashi taught him tree climbing and the academy taught him the leaf balancing exercises. Other than that, all he is doing is reviewing his own jutsu inventory, trying to understand them better and to use them quicker, which is why when he showed that jutsu I started to tell him how degrading it was to women. When he informed me about how he used it on a mission his team took, that piqued my interest. Especially when he claimed that he was able to teach someone else how to do it, meaning it couldn't be a bloodline thing or because of that, which is why I told him to walk through town using it to see if anyone could detect it and how long it could be used. I have not done anything that could be considered stealing your clan's secrets or knowledge that I may have acquired by teaching your daughter. Just helping a student refine his own skills that he already has as well as chakra control. Anything else he comes up with is his own design." Hiyashi nods and said, "Very well. See that you don't." As he turned and walked toward the door. After he was gone, Kurenai let out a breath and a puff of smoke behind her drew her attention and saw Naruto sticking to the wall, and he said, "Wow, that actually worked." Kurenai turned her head to the side so fast someone might have thought that she had whiplash and said, "What are you doing?" Naruto said, "Ever heard the saying, if only I could be a fly on the wall?" Kurenai blinked and her eyes got wide, realizing what he meant before she frowned and said, "You were spying on me?" Naruto said, "No, I wanted to make sure that you weren't trying to trick me into failing the exams so that you could use that as a favor to protect Hinata. After Mizuki, can you blame me?" Kurenai pursed her lips and said, "Do you have any idea how stupid what you have been pulling was? You could get us both as so much trouble." Naruto frowned and Kurenai saw this and sighed and said, "We should go see Hinata and then get back to your training." Naruto nods and Kurenai said, "But if you ever spy on me again, I'll quit training you in a heartbeat after making you experience kissing Sasuke over and over again." Naruto paled as he followed Kurenai into Hinata room, and Kurenai moved to Hinata bed and grabbed the clipboard and read it and frowned and said, "They have sedated her to keep her from moving around to give her time to heal. I guess this was a waste of time." Naruto was looking at Hinata bed and remember her words during the exams, and after a moment said, "Sensei, does Hinata like me?" Kurenai eyes widened slightly and she looked at Hinata and asked, "Why would you think that?" Naruto bit his lip and walked over to the window and said, "Sensei, can you keep a secret?" Kurenai said, "I believe so, why?" Naruto said, "I've noticed Hinata following me over the years, spying on me." Kurenai eyes widened and said, "Oh, why was she doing that?" in a calm voice, acting like she didn't believe him. Naruto frowned hearing this and said, "Sensei, please stop trying to deflect me. You know something and I can understand that you don't want to tell me, but I'm confused." Kurenai sighed and said, "I can't tell you if she does or doesn't, Naruto. I won't betray your trust like I won't betray hers, but if what you said is true and you have seen her following you over the years, why have you never talked to her about it?" Naruto looked down and said, "At first, I thought that she was spying on me to rat me out for my pranks. I was pulling her to figure out how I was doing my pranks to do something herself and get me in trouble for her actions, considering how fast I was caught or blamed when I was younger." Kurenai thought, "Well, I guess I could see where he thought that." And said, "You said at first. What changed?" Naruto said, "Truthfully, it wasn't until the first part of the Chunin exam that my opinion of her changed, you see. Hinata was right next to me in the room we had that paper test. I didn't know any of the answers and I was getting a little worried, but Hinata surprised me and quietly offered me a chance to copy her paper." Kurenai eyes widened and said, "She did?" in surprise. Naruto nods and said, "She shocked me, but I told her no thanks, that I would pass on my own. God, I wanted to slap myself after I said that." Kurenai said, "Well, you did get by it on your own." Naruto said, "With a blank paper." Kurenai blinked and asked, "What?" Naruto turned to her and said, "I passed with a blank paper. I didn't even write my name on the test paper. I bluffed my way through the test, even going so far as to stand up and scream at that Ibiki guy, telling him I would be Hokage even if I had to stay a genin forever." Kurenai shook her head and said, "I can't believe you did that." Naruto bit his lip and said, "The rest of the test, after Hinata offered to let me cheat, I tried to figure out what she was up to. Was she trying to get me caught to eliminate me? Was she actually trying to help me? I just couldn't figure out what to think. And then when she was fighting Neji, when she was talking, she was quoting me, saying the words I said, like they were her source of strength. I don't know what to think anymore, sensei. I'm scared. Kurenai, who was watching Naruto, and asked him, why are you scared? Naruto looked down and said, because I don't know if her feelings for me are real or if they are just because she sees me as some kind of support. And I'm worried if she finds out about that if she did like me she would turn around and either hate me, or worse, fear me. Kurenai said, I think you're not putting enough faith in Hinata. She will be able to see the difference between you and that. Naruto bit his lip and said, I doubt it, sensei, but what if Hinata doesn't actually like me? What if Hinata is actually getting strength from me? Then what happens when I'm not there? She would become like a puppet with its strings cut. A person has to be strong enough to stand up for themselves first, because no matter how many times someone helped pick them up, the moment they let go to see you stand on your own, you will fall right back on the ground again. Kurenai said, don't you think that's a little harsh thinking? Naruto said, it's the lesson I learned from the people of Konoha. If I didn't pick myself back up every time I got knocked down, I wouldn't be here today. I would have quit long before I ever took my genin exam the first time, much less the third. Kurenai bit her lip and said, you didn't tell me why you told me what you did. Naruto said, because I can tell your care for Hinata. I can also tell that you want to be there as a pillar of support for her and always to protect her. But that's not possible. Either Hinata will eventually get promoted and moved away from you, or you will have to move on for some reason yourself. Sooner or later you will have to let go, and if Hinata doesn't know how to stand, she will fall and not get back up. I'm telling you so that you don't hate me when I have to break her heart by telling her I can't be with her, because I don't want someone I have to stand behind in my shadow of her in front of using me for support. I want someone who can stand beside me as an equal. Kurenai frowned and said, I see. Naruto saw the frown and said, you don't agree with me. What if you were in Hinata? Would you stand up for yourself when people turn on you for being a demon whore or demon lover? Would you be able to take what the world dishes out, or would you buckle under the weight of it? Ask yourself honestly, could Hinata do that, or would she collapse and never get back up? Is that fair to her or to me? Kurenai said, alright, you made your point, I can understand where you're coming from, but I don't think you should judge her without getting to know her. After all, isn't that what happened to you? Naruto frowned and looked at Hinata and said, I wish things could be different, but. Kurenai said, you don't have to explain it to me. I'm not the one who has to live with your decisions. Naruto said, maybe I should go. I'll go work on my chakra control until you show back up. Kurenai said, no, let your clones do that. You need to work on your body conditioning a little bit. Get in the water in the stream below the waterfall and start practicing your punches and kicks and jumps against the water. It's called resistance training, and it works on toning muscles as well as increasing strength and power without sacrificing flexibility. If your Kage Bunshin are able to complete all the Charka exercises, then switch the leaf for a small stone and repeat the process, going with getting more and more heavier things. I also want you to create 100 Kage Bunshin and have them try and hit you with the rubber ball one at a time. I want you to replace yourself with a Kage Bunshin that doesn't have a ball so that it takes the hit. When you are resting from resistance training, I've got something I've got to look into for the next few days, so your training will be your own until I can meet you. I want when we meet again for you to show me your improvement in using replacement as well as your chakra control and physical training. I also want you to come up with at least 5 complete battle strategies that can be used in battle against each person still in the exams with the current knowledge and skills you have. You're not going to be handed a victory on a silver platter, you're going to have to earn it. Naruto nods and said, is there anything else, Kurenai-sensei? Kurenai thought a moment and then took a look at Hinata and said, know yourself, Naruto. I want you to explore every possibility you can with all the jutsu you know. Naruto nods and Kurenai watched him leave and sighed to herself. Naruto, after leaving the hospital, frowned and thought, maybe you're right, sensei, but I just don't want to be hurt by those who are supposed to love me. It scares me. Could my parents have been like Haku's dad? Could they have hated me for the Kyuubi and abandoned me? That's why I don't ask Gigi who they are now that I know about Kyuubi. Getting to the waterfall, Naruto began to take off his shirt and pants, not wanting to get them wet, when he heard a noise behind him and turned around and blinked and said, what are you doing here? Hiashi Hyuga came walking out of the woods and said, I had thought over your words after you left and I had used my Byakugan to see where you were after I left Kurenai. I was surprised to hear the maturity of your words that you spoke to her about in my daughter's room. While not as educated as some of your peers, you are very good at reading people and have a high level of empathy for others. For that reason I want to tell you about why Neji did what he did to Hinata during the preliminaries and see if you can come up with the solution to a problem that has eluded me for years. Do you have time to listen to my story? Naruto looked at Hiashi and after a moment nods his head slowly. Hiashi, seeing the nod, said, It starts back when I was born. You see, Neji father was my twin brother. Since I was born first I was placed in the main house while my brother was placed in the branch house. The firstborn child of the main branch is always placed in the main house while any others become the branch house. Naruto said, So the only difference between the two houses is which is born first. That's stupid. Hiashi said, I will not go into why that is the way we do things. I will skip until right after the Kyuubi was sealed in you. Konoha had been weakened by the Kyuubi attack on our village. So much so that the Sandaime was afraid that other villages would take our weakened state as a chance to attack and destroy us. It was because of this decision that he revealed the secret of the Kyuubi being sealed in you to the general public, as well as making his decree that no one was to speak about your burden. Naruto eyes widened and said, Why would he do that? Hiashi said, Jinchuriki, that is what those who are like you called. Naruto said, There are others like me, with demons sealed in them. Hiashi blinked and said, I was under the impression that you already knew this. Naruto frowned and said, Well, I didn't learn about it until what happened with Mizuki. I figure since you're on the council you know all about that event. Hiashi nods and Naruto said, Well, after that Iruka-sensei and Jiji made sure I realized I wasn't the Kyuubi and Jiji told me about his law and that he wanted me to have a normal childhood as best as he could, but anything else he might have been willing to tell me that night I didn't really want to talk about because, well, it raises a lot of questions on a personal level one don't want to go into about. Hiashi thought a moment and said, Your parents. Naruto eyes widened slightly and looked at Hiashi, who after a moment said, Yes, I know of them, or at least who I suspect were your parents. If my guess is accurate, then I can tell you that your father died the day you were born fighting Kyuubi, and I believe your mother passed away giving birth to you, though I can't be for sure, but I believe that my opinion would be correct. Naruto eyes widened and said, Can you? Hiashi said, No. Information is power, and power comes at a price. The information on who I suspect as your parents would not only cause me great trouble should it be discovered that I told you what I suspect, but also put you and Konoha in great danger, something I cannot allow without real proof. Naruto frowned and looked down and said, Can you at least tell me, were they good people and would they have loved me? Hiashi thought a moment and said, Yes to both. Naruto smiled and said, Then that is all I need to know. For that I will do my best to help you with your problem. So what is your story? Hiashi thought as he saw a small change in Naruto. Was it really that simple of an answer to make him happy? I suppose with the hardship of life knowing that you are loved, even by the dead when you did not know before would give you strength. Perhaps that is where I have gone wrong all these years as a father. As he said, Very well. About 3 months after the Kyuubi attack, Kumo decided that since Konoha was damaged as badly as we were, as well as the fact winter came early causing our resources to reach their limit, that it would be a good time to attack Konoha, and war started. Naruto was listening said, So my sacrifice was for nothing then? Hiashi said, No, your sacrifice saved Konoha because without the delay you gave us then Konoha would have been destroyed and more villages would have attacked us besides Kumo. Naruto sighed and said, Then I guess I can accept that. Hiashi said, I will skip until Hinata's 3rd birthday. Kumo had declared they wished to end the war and sent several ninja as well as one of their top Junin to come sign the peace treaty. It was a day of great joy in the village, but the Hyuga clan did not go because, as I said, it was Hinata's 3rd birthday. That night a masked individual broke into our clan compound and kidnapped Hinata. As he was making his escape with her I discovered him and killed him to rescue my daughter. The masked kidnapper was the Kumo Junin who signed the peace treaty. Naruto eyes had widened as he heard this and Hiashi said, Kumo said that Konoha did not want peace and only wanted a chance to kill one of their top ninja and wanted the head of the man who killed their Junin, me. Naruto asked, but what does this have to do with anything? Hiashi said, my brother, he was killed in my place since he was my identical twin. He was Neji's father. Naruto thought a moment and said, so Neji blames Hinata for his father's death because his dad took your place, that is why he did what he did in the exams. Hiashi nods and Naruto said, Neji a idiot. Hiashi eyes widen and said, how dare you say that? Naruto interrupted him and said, blames an innocent 3-year-old girl who could not defend herself against a Junin-level enemy ninja. No offense Hiashi, but I can't respect Neji or feel sympathy for him because if I did then that would be like me saying that it's alright for me to kill everyone in Konoha who made my life bad because of the Kyuubi. The people didn't choose for me to have the Kyuubi in me and I didn't choose it, just like Hinata didn't choose to get kidnapped and Hinata didn't choose for her uncle to take your place either. What Neji did was a disgrace to everything I believe in and what I believe all the Hokage believed in. Hinata was not only a fellow Konoha ninja, she was also his family. My sensei says those who don't follow the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. I also believe that true strength comes from protecting that which is precious to you, and I believe that family is the most precious thing there is. The people of Konoha are family, and as ninja of Konoha we are tasked with protecting them with everything we have. Neji is a disgrace in my eyes. I will not only kick his, but I'm going to show him exactly how wrong he is. Hiashi pursed his lips as his face went neutral and said, goodbye, as he turned and left. After Hiashi left, Naruto turned to go back to the river to begin training when a female voice said, you know, I think that was the most emotional I have ever seen him. Naruto turned to his right and saw Kurenai standing on a tree limb and Naruto said, how long have you been there, sensei? Kurenai said, long enough. Naruto, I know you believe that if you believe in yourself that anything is possible. And you have enough conviction to make others believe in you also. But if you don't have the skills to back up your beliefs and convictions, then you will end up looking like a fool. Have you thought about how you're going to pull off not only a victory against Neji, but now you go and claim you're going to show him the error of his way? Something his uncle, clan head, couldn't even do. I don't know if you realize it, but you're putting your dream of one day becoming Hokage on the line here. If you fail to keep your word to Hiashi now, then how will he be able to trust you if you ever get the chance to become Hokage? Every action has a reaction, Naruto. You need to realize that or you will get caught in a trap and die or cost yourself and your teammates their lives. Naruto frowned and looked down and Kurenai said, I'm sorry Naruto, I shouldn't be so hard on you, but. Naruto said, no, you're right. I know I'm an idiot, sensei. I make a lot of mistakes, but I don't know how to do things any other way than the way I do. As he still was looking down. Kurenai bit her lip and said, Naruto, how hard are you willing to work to have people actually look up to you as a possible Hokage one day? Naruto looked up at Kurenai directly into her eyes and said, I'll die to reach my goal. Kurenai looked for any sign of doubt and found only conviction and said, I had came back to check on you one last time before I started doing what I got to go do. But if that is the way you feel, then the current training isn't going to be enough. I'm going to call in a couple of favors from a couple of friends. You are going to hate me by the end of this month, but you will be thankful as well. Now get back to training like I told you, and when I return I won't be alone. And Naruto, keep your cloths on. The cloths while wet will make you weigh more and help add to your resistance training. Naruto swallowed as he saw the look on Kurenai's face and thought, what have I gotten myself into? Naruto stood in front of a mirror in his apartment and thought, let's see what the world thinks of the Urei no Konoha, ghost of Konoha, before he disappeared in a swirl of leaves. The Chunin exam stadium was full of people waiting for the exams to begin. Down below in the stadium all the competitors were there except Dosu, Sasuke, and Naruto. A swirl of leaves appeared in the middle of the stadium, catching everyone's attention, and a figure wearing solid white combat boots, white pants with built-in holsters, a white shirt, with white fishnet underneath it, a white Chunin-style vest with several white scrolls on the pocket of the scrolls, a white cloak with a built-on hood that was pulled up over the head of the person who had arrived. Murmurs broke out in the crowd as everyone saw the figure arrive, including the Sandaime Hokage and the Yondaime Kazekage. Genma, The proctor of the exams looked at the new arrival and tensed a moment and said, "And you are?" The person who would completely shadow the face of the person who had arrived said, "Naruto Uzumaki, the Yurei no Konoha." Several eyes widened as they heard who it was that had arrived, and even more murmurs broke out in the crowd as everyone looked at Naruto, including the other competitors. Genma, getting over his shock, said, "Get in line with the others and stand at attention everyone. The Chunin exams are about to begin." Naruto walked over and stood next to Shikamaru, who glanced at Naruto and said, "Troublesome." Genma cleared his throat and said loudly, "Now if I can have everyone's attention, the semi-annual Chunin exams are about to begin. My name is Genma and I am the proctor for this part of the exam. It will be a one-on-one battle. The rules are the same as the preliminary round. You will fight until a person quits, knocked out, dies, or until I call the match. There is no room for arguments. Now everyone look at this, as there have been some changes in the order of battles." As he pulled out a piece of paper and showed it to everyone, and Shikamaru thought, "My matches have changed." Genma said, "Now that everyone has seen the changes, would everyone but Naruto Uzumaki and Neji Hyuga please leave the arena floor so we may begin?" Shikamaru said, "Good luck, Naruto," as he turned and followed after the three sand ninjas and Shino. Neji, who was looking at Naruto, said, "You look like you have something you wish to say." Naruto reached up and pulled his hood back over his head and said, "Just one," as he pulled out a book and held it up to his face and said, "If you want any chance to defeat me, then you need to come at me with the intent to kill, because you will not be able to defeat me otherwise." Neji scoffed and said, "Proctor, start this match so this loser can learn that no one can defy fate, and a loser like him will always be a loser." Genma said, "The first match of the Chunin exams is between Naruto Uzumaki and Neji Hyuga. Ready, begin." Neji activated his bloodline and said, "Prepare to lose." Naruto, who was still reading his book, said, "You say something." Up in the stand, Sakura slapped her forehead and thought, "Naruto copying Kakashi sensei." Several others were also deadpanning as they heard this. Neji activated his Byakugan and began to charge toward Naruto, but when he got within 15 feet of Naruto, a small explosion detonated right in front of Neji knee, causing Neji to stumble and scream out in pain and shock. Naruto, who was still reading his book, said, "Lesson 1. Observation. A ninja must always look at their surroundings to figure out the best way to use them should they be attacked, as well as for any possible signs of a trap or deception." Neji looked at his left knee and saw it was burned slightly while his pants took most of the explosion, and Neji said, "I see, your act was to distract me from the exploding tag you must have set prior to the exam starting." Naruto said, "Nope. Before I shushined inside the stadium earlier, I have never in any way, shape or form ever set foot in this stadium. That also was not an exploding tag." Neji stood up slowly and tested his weight on his left leg and said, "Then if it was not an exploding tag, then what was it?" Naruto smirked and lowered his book and said, "Now why would I want to explain that to you?" As he closed his book and tossed it away from him on the ground and reached into his weapon pouch and pulled out a Senbon needle and said, "Uzumaki Ultimate Secret Jutsu, 2000 Years of Pain," as he threw the Senbon needle in the air straight up. Neji, who had activated his Byakugan, was facing toward Naruto and was watching Naruto and the needle in the same time when all of a sudden the needle was covered in smoke. Half a second later, Neji screamed in pain as he was felt something stab him in his left cheek from behind. Many people in the stand blinked as they saw this, and Neji reached behind him and pulled out the Senbon needle and glared at Naruto before throwing the needle at Naruto, but the needle disappeared again and he felt pain in his right cheek this time. Pulling out the needle, he glared at Naruto and said, "I figure out your trick. You are using your chakra to direct this needle. My eyes see everything and can see the chakra in it. As long as it is in motion, then you can use your chakra to redirect it," as he stuck the needle in his weapon pouch. Naruto smirked and said, "You really think so? I only have one word for you. Boom." Neji's weapon pouch exploded, sending all his weapons flying as well as causing Neji to scream in pain from the mild explosion that injured his right thigh. Neji was gritting his teeth to endure the pain, and Naruto said, "Tell me, Neji, how will you be able to move fast enough to hit me when your right knee and left thigh are injured?" Neji glared at Naruto and said, "You resort to tricks because you are not skilled enough to defeat me honorably." Naruto said, Ninja Neji. Samurai have personal honor. Ninja have village honor. Besides, so far I have only used a single jutsu to put you in the shape you are in and I have not even started yet. Neji stood up as straight as he could and tried to ignore the pain he was feeling and Naruto said, remember when I arrived earlier? I called myself the Yurei no Konoha. Do you know why I called myself that? Neji said nothing as he activated his bloodline and Naruto said, let's find out. As he charged at Neji and Neji got into a taijutsu stance and when Naruto was in range Neji shoved his hands forward to hit Naruto, but to Neji and everyone else's shock the blow went right through Naruto who kept moving and Neji thought, Bunshin no Jutsu. Right before Naruto who went completely through Neji body stopped and stabbed Neji in both shoulders with kunais causing Neji to scream out in pain and shocking everyone in the stands. Turning Neji threw a palm thrust at Naruto which went through Naruto body but Naruto threw a punch while Neji hand was in him and the punch sent Neji flying backwards. Everyone was wide-eyed and Naruto said, the reason I call myself the Ghost of Konoha is because over the month break I created a new jutsu I call Ghost Phase. With it I can make any and every part of my body become like a Bunshin no Jutsu where any attacks to me will simply phase through. Neji winced as he pulled the kunais out of his shoulders and said, it doesn't matter what your new jutsu does. You are still fated to lose. Naruto said, yeah, about that. I didn't get the memo so I'm still going for the win. Anyways Neji, I only told you about the part of the jutsu I can do to myself. I didn't tell you about what happens if I apply this jutsu to someone else. As a hand came out of the ground and grabbed Neji's leg and Neji screamed as he was pulled into the ground completely. A few moments later Neji came flying out of the ground with another Naruto holding onto his leg before letting go and going up in smoke. When Neji hit the ground Naruto said, if I had let go of you when you were underground then you would have phased into existence and died instantly with your entire insides being turned into the ground you had been standing on. I can do this with any element. My ghost phase jutsus are the perfect spying and assassination jutsu. Take this for example. The wall of the stadium exploded shocking everyone because the explosion was equal to that of 20 exploding tags. Neji said in a slightly scared voice, what just happened? Naruto smirked as said, that cage Bunshin I created that pulled you under used my ghost phase jutsu to go inside the walls of the stadium and planted several exploding tags. He also placed them in the trees. Just then the 3 trees exploded destroying the trees and after the dust settled Naruto said, you see Neji. You can't touch me. I could just as easily put an exploding tag inside you as I did those trees or walls. Neji got a scared look on his face and Naruto said, you told Hinata during the match you had with her during the preliminary round that a loser will always be a loser. You sprouted of shit about fate claiming that no matter how hard anyone fights against their fate they will never be able to change their fate. I bet you believe that you are fated to win this match, right? Neji said, yes, you are fated to lose today and no matter what you think or do you will never be able to defeat me. I don't care what kind of jutsu you got. I will defeat you. Naruto shook his head and said, I thought so. That is a way of thinking that will cost you and others their lives. You think that because you are considered a prodigy in your clan or rookie of the year or kunoichi of the year or even if you are an elite junin that you cannot be defeated. My sensei is Hatake Kakashi, also known as Sharingan no Kakashi, the copycat ninja, who is said to have copied over 1000 jutsu in his life. On my team's first C-rank mission outside the village we encountered A-rank missing ninja Zabuza Momochi. Kakashi-sensei got arrogant because of his Sharingan. He got his beat by Zabuza and trapped in a water prison jutsu. Zabuza after capturing Kakashi got arrogant because he was a Junin and my team was made up of 3 genin. Sasuke and I were able to work together as a team and was able to not only attack Zabuza and his Mizu Bunshin, but also freed Kakashi-sensei. Your arrogance has blinded you to the truths of the world just like Kakashi-sensei and Zabuza were blinded by Tier. Neji glared at Naruto and said, and what truth is that loser? Naruto said, Hinata could have defeated you at any time she wanted by just activating that seal on your head without ever batting an eyelash. She chose instead to face you as a family member instead of a ninja. She chose to face you as an equal when according to your way of thinking she should be your better since she was born the firstborn daughter of your father's twin brother. She is the honorable heiress while you are a lowly member of the branch family and yet here you are, in the finals facing me while your cousin sits in the stands recovering from the heart damage you gave her in your match. The branch house is supposed to protect the main branch, and yet you tried to murder the very person you are supposed to protect. You tried to kill someone who wants to see you as an equal instead of a lowly slave. Tell me, Neji, did your father love you? Many eyes widen as they heard Naruto ask that, including Neji, who said, of course he did. Naruto said, then why would you betray his sacrifice in memory? Neji said, I have never. Naruto interrupted him and said, Hinata. Neji's face changed into a look of hatred and said, it's her fault that my father had to die. Naruto said, your father may have been a member of the branch house, but he loved his twin brother just like he loved you and Hinata. Do you honestly think your father would stand by and let his brother die? Neji frowned and Naruto said, think about if you were in his place. Faced with the option of watching your own twin sacrificed. A twin who had the power to protect your niece and son better than he could. Your dad was a hero, Neji. He sacrificed his life to protect Konoha, but more importantly his family. He should be remembered with honor like the Yondaime Hokage is remembered for his sacrifice in defeating the Kyuubi to protect Konoha. As Hokage he saw the people of this village as family, that he would die to protect them, but you Neji have disgraced your father and the Yondaime and both their sacrifice by turning on your family and comrade, even when one stands in front of you with her heart being destroyed by you because she wants you to find peace in your life so that you could live on. Neji, who had been recovering during Naruto's speech, charged at Naruto and delivered a palm thrust to Naruto's chest, causing Naruto to cough as blood flew out of his mouth. Neji said, you will be silent about things you have no clue about, loser. A loser is always a loser. Even with your new jutsu I was able to defeat you. Naruto, who had blood coming out of his mouth, smirked and said, boom, before he exploded, blasting Neji backwards, causing him to begin screaming in pain from the blast. As the smoke cleared, Naruto, who everyone could see was completely unharmed from before, was seen walking toward the body of Neji, and Naruto stopped a few feet away from Neji and said, you dead man, in a questioning, joking tone as he kicked Neji's leg lightly. Neji moaned in pain and asked, how? Naruto smirked and said, if you don't know yourself, then how will you be able to know your enemy? Remember the book you saw me reading? The one I threw away at the beginning of the match. That wasn't a book. That was me using a version of one of my jutsu to change myself to look like the book. The entire battle you were fighting nothing but a single Kage Bunshin who has been using the few jutsu I know to trick you and defeat you while I rest and recover my chakra from creating that single Kage Bunshin in total safety. My clone let you hit him so he could explode and take you out without killing you, but you know the funny thing, Neji. I failed the graduation exam 3 times because I was unable to make a Bunshin in order to pass. You, the rookie of your year as well as a prodigy of your clan, was just defeated by the dead last of his class with his worst skill. Looks like you were fated to lose. I guess you missed the message. Neji's eyes widened before they closed and said, I lost. Naruto said, I told you that you would, but you know something funny, you were right about you winning this match. Proctor, call the match. I quit. Genma looked at Neji and reached up to take the senbon out of his mouth to speak. He heard Naruto's words and his eyes widen as did everyone else's, and several shouts was heard and Neji said, wait, you quit, why? In a pain-filled voice. Everyone quitted down to hear why Naruto said he quit, and Naruto looked at Neji and said, you know Gaara, the red-headed guy over there who fought your teammate Lee during the preliminary round. Well, Gaara tried to kill Lee while he was in the hospital 2 weeks ago. Shikamaru and I both found him and was able to stop him, but when we stopped him, Gaara told me something very important. He's the Jinchuriki of the Aikibi no Shukaku. He has the one-tail Biju inside of him. Everyone but the Suna Nin's eyes widen, and Naruto said, Gaara claimed his father, the Yondaime Kazekage, had the Aikibi sealed in him to make him Suna weapon. Jinchurikis come in 2 categories. Those who have a Biju sealed in them for the purpose of being weapons of war, and the second category is when a Biju attacks a village, like the Kyuubi did, and the Biju is then sealed away into a small child, usually an infant, for the sake of protecting the village. One Jinchuriki is used as a sword and one is used as a shield. Neji said, how do you know about Jinch, whatever that word is? Naruto closed his eyes and said, Gaara is a sword, I am a shield. Everyone's eyes widened who didn't know, and Naruto said, when the Kyuubi attacked Konoha, the Yondaime sealed the Kyuubi no Kitsune inside of me to protect Konoha. He asked that I be seen as a hero, but the Sandame wanted me to live a normal life, so he made a law saying it was illegal to talk about the Kyuubi being sealed in me. The reason I quit is because I am trying to protect Konoha and save the lives of our fellow Konoha shinobi. You remember I blew up the wall and those trees. I did that for a reason. Neji asked. Why? Naruto said, you notice my teammate Sasuke hasn't showed up yet. Kakashi sensei has been personally training Sasuke this entire month. Problem is Kakashi sensei is 3 hours late for everything. Sasuke will be late for his match and his match will be postponed until the end of the first round, even though if it was anyone else they would be disqualified. That means Shino and Kankuro match would be next. By destroying the trees like I did and causing them to fall, I made it where Kankuro, who is a puppet user, doesn't have any place to really hide, so he will have to work faster to attack Shino, which will cause him to make a mistake, while the debris from the wall and trees will give Shino room to hide his clan partners who are bugs. No disrespect to the Aburame family, but I don't know really anything about insects besides the general term they are referred as. Anyways, both Shino and Kankuro are long-range fighters. Shino will be able to cut Kankuro chakra strings as soon as he makes and drain him of his chakra, so odds are Shino will win his match and quickly unless Kankuro uses poisons. Then it will most likely come down to a draw. Up in the stands, Shino nods as does Shikamaru while Kankuro frowned. Naruto looked at Neji and said, but then there is Shikamaru match. Temari is a long-range wind user, but Shikamaru not really a long-range fighter. I know he's a Nara and I saw what his family jutsu can do, but I also saw a single flaw with Shikamaru jutsu during the preliminary round he had with that kin girl. He made his shadow very thin in order to stretch it out longer. That means he only has a set area he can cast his shadow. Up in the stands, Shikaku raised an eyebrow and thought, interesting, let's see how much he figured out. Shikamaru on the other hand thought, troublesome. Back in the arena, Naruto said, but then I thought, if the original Ino Shika-Cho group was so dangerous, his dad only being able to send his shadow a couple of feet would actually cost more time and energy than it was worth when you could just tie ninja wire around a kunai and throw it to capture an enemy. That was when I came up with a theory, there must be some way that the Nara can make their jutsu stretch longer. It might be just adding more chakra to it, but if that was the case, why did Shikamaru make his so thin when that would require more energy and concentration than he likes to use? I also thought what would be a weakness for his jutsu. I'm not sure if I am right, but I had to take a chance. Since the sun sets in the west, I'm hoping by knocking out the wall Shikamaru jutsu will be weakened with more of the sunlight coming into the stadium, making it where he won't be able to attack Temari as easily, so she can quickly take him out with a long-range jutsu. Neji said, so you would sabotage a fellow Konoha ninja. Naruto said, if Shino beats Kankuro, then he will most likely be too tired to fight in the next round. If Shikamaru somehow beats Temari, then he will also be too tired for another match. In that case, with both of them now knowing about Gaara having the Aikibi in him, they will forfeit their matches against him. With both Shino and Shikamaru matches going so much quicker thanks to me changing the field, then Sasuke will be disqualified and Gaara will win. Temari and Kankuro won't fight their brother, so Gaara will win the tournament without ever fighting anyone, so he won't have a chance to kill anyone during this tournament. Neji said, but if you're one of those Jinchuriki, then why don't you fight him? Naruto said, you have no idea what you are asking. Battles between Jinchuriki should be far away from civilians and villages. Jinchuriki are thought of weapons of war for a reason. Neji. Iwa has 2 Jinchuriki, the Yonbi and the Gobi, who are sealed inside the sons of the Nadaime Tsuchikage. Kumo has 2, the Hachibi and the Nibi. One is sealed inside the brother of the Yondaime Reikage and the other is sealed in his niece. The Sanbi is sealed inside the Yondaime Mizukage. Gaara up there has the Aikibi and he is the son of the Yondaime Kazekage. I have the Kyuubi sealed in me by the Yondaime Hokage. If you notice, all the Jinchuriki are related to the leader of their village in some way to help form loyalty to their home village. Odds are I am somehow related to the Yondaime or one of the other Hokages, and I bet I'm not the first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi Konoha has had. I mean, think about it. The Shadaime fought the furball and then it disappeared until the day I was born. You can't kill them, so odds are it was sealed in someone or several someones who were related to the Hokage in some way, and odds are the reason the furball attacked the village is because the person it was sealed in died, releasing the bastard. But when you think about it, It kind of explains why each of the villages with a Jinchuriki is referred to as one of the Great Five Villages. Anyways, I'm done. You're to injure to continue. I'm going to get a bowl of ramen before the Sandame tears me a new one for revealing the truth about Kyuubi being sealed in me. Shino, Shikamaru, good luck to both of you and please do your best in your first matches. Don't face Gaara. As he turned and started to walk away, the voice of the Sandame Hokage said, Naruto, wait. Naruto stopped and looked up at the Sandame who said, you're right on both guess. The Kyuubi was sealed in the wife of the Shadaime Hokage and then later in the wife of the Yondaime Hokage. Someone discovered Theur's secret marriage and the fact they were expecting a child and attacked her right after she gave birth to you and critically wounded her, which led to her death and the Kyuubi escape. Your mother's name was Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze and your father was Minato Namikaze. I've hidden the truth all these years in order to protect you from your father's enemies and to try and discover the identity of those responsible for releasing the Kyuubi. I had planned to tell you the entire truth when you became a Chunin, but after seeing your new jutsu and you revealing your burden, your life will be in the same danger it would have been in if everyone knew who your parents were. Naruto smiled and said, thanks, now please hurry up these exams because I know Sasuke won't listen to anyone and will try to fight Gaara. As much of a pain in the Sasuke tem as he's still my teammate. Besides, all the fangirls will most likely commit a mass suicide if he got killed just so they could be with him again. Konoha needs our fangirls. Neji choked and said, why? Naruto looked at him and said, in the event Konoha is ever attacked, fangirls are used as cannon fodder and enemy communication disruptors. All the guys in the stands began to nod in agreement before several screams and shouts of Naruto name was heard, causing Naruto to pale before he said, see ya, as he shushined away. Hiruzen sighed and said, Genma, proceed. If Sasuke not here in 2 minutes then disqualify him. Genma said, right, as he ignored the shouts of disagreement. Naruto phased up inside of the chair Hiruzen was sitting in before placing a note he had in his hand inside of Hiruzen's palm before phasing back into the ground. Hiruzen blinked as he felt a piece of paper appear in his hand and turned his hand sideways and read. Gigi. Suna and Odo have allied together. Enemy ninja outside the walls, around 1000, Cage fake, it's Orochimaru. Placed 3 exploding tags inside him. He had some weird sword inside him I took also. Send your guard to your office to get your pipe if you want me to use my ghost phase and Cage Bunshin to take out the ninja outside the walls. Inside your pocket is a Cage Bunshin hanged as a scroll. Pull it out and give it orders and he will activate the tags in Snake Face if you are attacked. Hiruzen bit his lip and reached into his pocket where he felt the scroll and said, capture when possible, as he crushed the scroll in his pocket. Naruto was leaning against a building when he got the memories of his scroll Cage Bunshin and thought, be careful Gigi, before he shushined away. The Sandame Hokage was looking at the match down below between Shikamaru and Temari and said, I was surprised when your middle son forfeited Cage-san. He's nothing like his elder brother. The Cage blinked and said, you mean sister, right Hokage-san? Hiruzen said, no, I was referring to your other son. The one you had before you became Cage. I understand why you can't publicly claim him, but still, even you can feel pride in what he has done instead of what your middle son has done. Right. The Cage said, yes though, I rather not talk about it Hokage-san. Hiruzen smirked and said, of course, but tell me, what do you think of Naruto's new jutsu? The Cage said, impressive. Hiruzen said, yes, it truly is a very impressive jutsu. I mean after he left he came and gave me a message in my hand. He claimed he found a missing ninja hidden somewhere in the village and he used his ghost jutsu to place exploding tags inside of the missing ninja. The Cage tensed and said, really, how interesting. Hiruzen said, yes, he even told me he took something of great value from the missing nin and is just waiting for my orders to kill him. The Kakashi said, and what was it that he took? Hiruzen saw Shikamaru capture Temari and he said, the grasscutter sword my former student. The Cage tensed and said, what do you mean? The next moment there was an explosion outside of the village walls and both the Cage and Hokage tensed and Hiruzen smirked and said, it appears that Naruto is taking care of your army Orochimaru. The Cage doesn't have a third son. That was a test to see if what Naruto told me is true. Now if I was you I would retreat before the exploding tags he placed inside of you goes off. The cage reached up and pulled off his face showing Orochimaru who said, "You are a fool Sensei." Naruto voice said, "No, he's not." Before Orochimaru felt something grab his leg and Orochimaru fell through the floor, but before his head came through his body became solid along with his two bodyguards' heads. On the underside of the cage box Naruto stood along with two cage bunshin holding the body of Orochimaru and his guards that had become separated from their head before jumping up through the floor again holding them. As he landed back in the cage box Hiruzen and the guards there tensed before Hiruzen saw the state Naruto cloths and body was in and he quickly moved to Naruto's side ignoring the three headless bodies and said, "Are you alright Naruto?" Naruto who had several cuts along his arms and legs said in a pain-filled voice, "I was able to take out about 3 dozen ninja before they realized they were under attack. It was a group around a large summon circle and the guards surrounding them. That explosion was me taking out the summon circle. I'll be fine. The furball is good for something. You need to warn everyone, my clones are fighting the enemy, ninja outside of the village but are dying quick. Watch out for Gaara." Before he passed out but was caught by Hiruzen. Hiruzen frowned and said, "Radio, take Naruto to the hospital for immediate medical care and stand guard over him until I personally relieve you. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Radio, the ninja assigned to guard the Sandaime said, "Hi Hokage-sama," as he grabbed Naruto's limp body before shushing away. Hiruzen quickly moved to the front of the cage's box and said, "May I have everyone's attention?" Temari and Shikamaru both stopped fighting and everyone looked up at the cage's box and Hiruzen said, "We have just received word that Suna is about to be attacked by the Hidden Sound Village. The cage has left to take charge of his forces to deal with this threat to his village. All Konoha ninja are to immediately prepare to aid our ally Suna." A puff of smoke beside the Hokage showed an Anbu in an ape mask who said loud enough his voice carried over the entire stadium, "Hokage-sama, the cage has been killed by S-rank missing ninja Orochimaru and his body has been taken by sound ninja who are preparing to attack the village. Naruto Uzumaki is currently engaging the enemy." Hiruzen turned to the crowd and said, "The Chunin exams are hereby cancelled. All Suna and Odo forces spread word about the death of the cage and the attack on our village. Chunin, begin invasion protocols. Anbu, move to the walls and prepare the counter-offensive. Junin, protect the VIPs in the village and eliminate any threats. I'll be moving to take care of Orochimaru myself. Move." Several sound ninja immediately jumped to their feet but were killed by Konoha and Suna ninja though the last were looking confused and unsure at first. Hiruzen seeing the fighting begin moved to Orochimaru head when a chuckle was heard and the mouth of Orochimaru head opened and another Orochimaru appeared and said, "Hello Sensei." Hiruzen frowned and said, "My former student, how far have you fallen to create something like that?" As he moved into a defensive stance while quickly shedding his cage robes showing his armor underneath. Orochimaru said, "It appears even without the 9 tails warning you were prepared for me." Hiruzen said, "Indeed I was. Why are you doing this?" Orochimaru said, "Because I can't stand peace. Peace is an illusion that causes the world to stagnate. Only when the world is in motion can the world evolve. It is unfortunately that I had to shed my body in order to rid myself of those explosive notes and the loss of my sword is a minor inconvenience but nothing that will cause me too much trouble." Hiruzen said, "We shall see Orochimaru. Prepare yourself." As he charged Orochimaru. 2 days later Naruto slowly opened his eyes and found himself in a hospital room and blinked and said, "What's happened?" as he tried to clear his head. A voice said, "Naruto-sama. Just rest and Hokage-sama and the doctors will be here shortly." Naruto blinked and saw an Anbu in a bear mask and said, "Anbu. What's going on?" Bear said, "The Sandaime will explain everything when he arrives shortly. All I can tell you is that it has been 2 days since the Chunin exams and I have been given orders to make sure you stay here and are not disturbed until Hokage-sama arrives which will be shortly. He also gave orders that you are not to speak with anyone until he speaks with you. My teammates are notifying the proper people." Naruto frowned and said, "Then if I'm not supposed to talk to anyone why did you talk to me?" Bear said, "Professional courtesy." Naruto pursed his lips and said, "I just know you have a damn smirk behind your mask." Bear said nothing and Naruto sighed and said, "Can we open the curtains?" I want to see the village with my own eyes. Bear said nothing or made any move, but when Naruto tried to get up, Bear quickly moved and placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder, stopping him, causing Naruto to pout. A few minutes later, the door to the room opened and the Sandaime walked in, and Naruto's eyes widened and said, "Are you alright, Gigi?" as he saw Hiruzen had his arm in a sling. Hiruzen said, "I'm fine, Naruto. Anbu, please leave, but make sure we are not disturbed or spied upon." Bear disappeared in a puff of smoke, and after a few moments Hiruzen walked over to the bed and said, "How are you feeling, Naruto?" Naruto frowned and said, "Sore." Hiruzen nods and said, "You and I have much to discuss," causing Naruto to gulp, and Hiruzen continued, "First, how did you discover the army outside the village?" Naruto frowned and said, "When my match first started, I sent a couple of Kage Bunshins hanged as birds out to see if they could find Sasuke and Kakashi. They dispelled halfway through my match and sent me the memories of the Suna and Odo armies outside the village. Since I realized Suna was going to attack us and remember what Gaara said about himself, I had to warn everyone about how dangerous he was, so that's why I decided to quit and explain things. I was hoping the Suna Nins would be scared of me and possibly retreat or call off their attacks, since I saw how Gaara's siblings acted around him and heard from Gaara himself about how things in his village was." Hiruzen said, "I see. That explains several other questions I had. How did you discover Orochimaru?" Naruto looked sheepish and said, "I accidentally came up inside him thinking it was your spot like I did when I gave you that message." Hiruzen nods and said, "I guess the only question I have now is about your new ghost jutsu." Naruto frowned and asked, "What about them?" Hiruzen said, "I want to know if they are as good as you originally claimed. Why did you get so injured and drained when you appeared before passing out?" Naruto bit his lip and said, "When I was in the Forest of Death before the preliminary round, my team met Orochimaru and he placed a seal over the Kyuubi seal." Hiruzen's eyes widened and glanced at Naruto's stomach in worry, and Naruto said, "It's a 5-star seal. Since I passed out when I first got it, I didn't remember it until I was training with Kurenai sensei and Anko sensei. I was having some problems with my chakra control and Anko told me that it was because of that seal after we discovered it. Since she was his apprentice once, she knew how to remove it and took it off of me, but since I had spent 15 days of almost pure chakra control training, when it came off, my control went through the roof." Hiruzen let out a breath he was hearing until he heard Naruto continue, "I wanted to prove I could win without the Kyuubi. I had asked Anko to come by and replace the 5-star seal before the final exams. You should be able to figure the rest out." Hiruzen was quite a moment and said, "Yes. You passed out from using all your chakra, and without the Kyuubi you couldn't replace it as fast as you normally could." Naruto nods and Hiruzen said, "Well, that explains the passing out part, but it doesn't explain how you got so hurt or how your ghost jutsu actually work." Naruto sighed and said, "Deception is a ninja greatest tool. Remember how I said the entire time Neji was fighting a Kage Bunshin? My Kage Bunshin are made of just chakra. No element. Right, wrong." Hiruzen blinked and said, "What do you mean that's wrong?" Naruto said, "Kurenai sensei explained the difference between knowing a jutsu and mastering a jutsu. I found out through a lot of trial and error that a Kage Bunshin is actually made up of air." Hiruzen blinked and said, "I don't seem to follow what you mean. Wind chakra is used to make." Naruto shook his head and said, "I didn't say wind chakra. I am talking about the air itself. The stuff we are breathing right now. That everyone breathes. I guess you could say wind chakra is actually a sub-element to air. When you make a Kage Bunshin, the air that is in the spot it is created is pulled in and trapped in the body, while whatever extra chakra that's left over is dispersed back into the air, which is what the smoke is from." Hiruzen nods and said, I think I see where you are going with this. So if a Kage Bunshin is actually a clone made of air, how is that related to your ghost jutsu?" Naruto said, "I was originally trying to figure out a way to make my Kage Bunshin last longer, and after an argument with Anko sensei about Kage Bunshin not being made of an element, which is why it couldn't take any damage like others could. Once I learned that air is actually an element and Kage Bunshin was a jutsu made from it, I started to try and figure out how to manipulate the element inside the clone to my advantage, which is how I learned my clones can control the density of the air inside it, making it thicker or thinner. Making it thicker turns it into an exploding shadow clone, but making it thinner," Hiruzen said, "makes it a ghost clone." Naruto said, "Mostly. It took a lot of trial and error, and you should have seen the look on Enko's face the first time I successfully had her punch phase through my clone before he punched her in the face, but there are weakness that comes with the ghost clones. Hiruzen said, what exactly? Naruto said, my ghost clones can last longer than the Kage-bunshin, but if my Kage-bunshin use the phase ability for too long they will become too weak to be stable and pop. So far my Kage-bunshin can only go ghost for 5 minutes before they pop. Every time someone attacks them, the actual movement from the item going through them causes the air inside to speed up and can cause that part of a clone's body to become solid after the hit, so there is a couple of second window where if someone hits a spot and hits it again they could dispel my ghost clones like a Kage-bunshin, which is why when my Kage-bunshin realize someone has figured this out they use that added speed of air from the punch to help turn itself into an exploding clone. Hiruzen said, impressive. I notice your vocabulary is larger now. Naruto looked sheepish and said, Kurenai-sensei made me read a lot of books and she questioned me about them. I had to read a dictionary once every day with a Kage-bunshin. Hiruzen nods and said, well, you explained the weakness of your ghost clones, but what about the real you? How did you get so hurt, or is it that only your Kage-bunshin that can use your ghost jutsu? Naruto said, not exactly. My Kage-bunshin can use it for offense and defense like it did against Neji, but the real me can use the ghost jutsu for defense but not offense. Hiruzen said, explain. Naruto looked in thought and said, I learned when I make a henge I was never doing it right. I was coating my entire body with chakra and trying to make my body real, which in essence I was. I can change everything in my body but my chakra network. That makes it where I can turn my body into a Kage-bunshin like they can, but if someone was able to attack my chakra network then the part that is hit would become solid until I rephased it. I learned that when I am phased out I can move my chakra network. Bend it, shape it, change it. I can even regrow it, which is how I know that if I become solid in the ground I can lose a limb or die. Hiruzen's eyes widened and looked at Naruto's body, and Naruto said, I lost my feet a couple of times, but I think it's something I got from the fox. I can convert chakra into a physical body, though it takes a lot out of me and it hurts badly. Hiruzen said, so you're able to reform lost limbs? Trying to hide his worry. Naruto said, yeah, that's why I retreated and came to tell you. I was fighting some Suna nins and they were able to use swords made out of wind to cut my arms off by cutting the chakra network I had in it, and I had to regrow them. Luckily with my ghost clones' help I was able to take them out, but I felt so weak after killing that group around the summoning circle that I knew I couldn't keep going and had to fall back while my clones kept attacking. The injuries I had was from constant attacks after the Suna nins learned about my weakness. Luckily all of them that saw it are dead. Hiruzen said, I see. What are your plans for these jutsu you made, Naruto? Naruto looked down and said, I think that if anyone beside me tried to use them they could accidentally kill themselves, so I don't want to teach them to anyone, at least until I learn everything about them. Hiruzen said, I agree. I am officially listing all your ghost jutsu as kinjutsu. Naruto said, so what happened with the invasion? I guess we won since you're here right now. Hiruzen said, thanks to you we won, but Orochimaru escaped. Naruto's eyes widened and Hiruzen said, Orochimaru has his own kinjutsu that allowed him to repair his body similar to a snake shedding its skin. You did weaken him and allowed me a chance to trick Suna into believing Odo tricked them. Which reminds me, everyone believes that Odo tried to attack Suna and that Orochimaru killed the Kazekage. If anyone asks about the Suna nins that you attacked and killed, tell them that you thought they were imposters since Suna is our ally. Naruto asked, but why? Were they really imposters? Hiruzen said, no. Suna had betrayed us, but by claiming you thought they were imposters then that makes it easier for Suna and Konoha to become allies again. Especially since Orochimaru did kill the Kazekage. We're just not sure when he killed him, so he could have been impersonating the Kazekage when he had Suna betray us. By giving Suna a chance to blame Orochimaru then we can become allies again. Something both villages need since we are both weakened from the attack. Naruto said, I see. Hiruzen said, now I know you probably have more questions or want to get out of here, but I can't let you leave the hospital until tomorrow and I have to return to my office. Tomorrow you will be dismissed and an Anbu will bring you to my office. Naruto, who was confused, asked, what do I need to come to your office for, Gigi, and why can't I get out? I feel fine. Hiruzen said, 2 men were caught sneaking into the village earlier looking for you. They are part of a criminal organization called Akatsuki. They want you because of the Kyuubi. The 2 men were able to escape and Kakashi is in a coma right now after he fought these 2 men to protect you along with several other ninja. Tomorrow when you get out you are going to meet your godfather Jiraiya who is Konoha top spy master. Naruto said, I know who he is. In a dead tone. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow and Naruto bit his lip while looking down and said, when Gaara told me about himself I realized there was others like me out there. Gaara scared me. I didn't know if I would become like him someday. I wanted to find out more about Jinchuriki so I figured the only place that would have any information about them beside you would be the Anbu headquarters. I used my ghost jutsu with my Kage Bunshin to sneak into the Anbu record room. That was how I knew all about the other Jinchuriki I mentioned in the exam. I also read my file in there. It had my parents' names as well as Jiraiya as my godfather and Makoto Uchiha as my godmother. Hiruzen frowned and said, I see. Naruto interrupted him and said, I'm a little tired Gigi. Hiruzen nods and said, I understand. Get some rest and I am sorry. As he turned and started to walk away. Naruto said, hey, did anyone get promoted? Hiruzen smiled and said, yes, Shikamaru and you both did. Congratulations Naruto. Naruto eyes widened and a smile formed on his face and said, thanks Gigi. Hiruzen said, don't thank me. You earned it by not only showing great strategy but also leadership qualities. We will discuss this further tomorrow when you arrive in my office. Naruto nods and said, I'll see you then. Hiruzen nods and leaves and Naruto felt a small smile on his face and thought, I made Chunin.